I'm always curious to see what you're going to be doing when we go live, and if you're going to be sipping on a beer or dancing, or if you're even going to be there. One of these days, I think that's going to happen. Well, happy Thursday, Ron.
Yeah, happy Thursday, David. Happy Thursday, McKenna.
Yeah. Hey, if you're watching us live, we appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching us later, thanks for tuning in to the Little Nessie Happy Hour. Cheers, Ron.
Cheers.
All right, so we go live every Thursday. We talk about a lot of stuff: housing, real estate, mortgage, and then we pepper in some fun topics. I got a really fun one for you today from the gut. Ron, you were getting ready to skedaddle again at the end of the week.
I am going on another 30-day world tour to celebrate Belinda's 29th birthday, and it's going to be fantastic. But I'll be out of pocket a little bit, but I'll be connected as best I can. I'm looking forward to staying connected, David.
Yeah, and pretty much as soon as you get back, you and I are going to go on a cruise together with our wives.
Can't wait. I'm gonna test you. Either I'm gonna test your liver, or you're gonna test my liver.
My liver's already been tested. McKenna has brought it up so many times. She's like, company trip.
Oh, we should have brought her too. It's too bad. But it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Someone's got to stay home and watch our cats. So
the cat people.
She has that duty. Alrighty. Well, we've got a handful of really, really great topics for you. We usually do a From the Gut, which is just I talk about whatever's top of mind for me. I'm going to be talking about Gen Z marketing today. And then we've got 3 main topics and then a handful of rapid fire topics. But today in my From the Gut, McKenna actually suggested that I talk about this guy because we're talking about marketing or not marketing. I think we're just talking about Gen Z and housing. And this guy, I was not aware of him up until about 2 weeks ago. And he has 1.3 or 1.6 million TikTok followers and all the other social channels. But that's my From the Gut today. And then as we jump into our main topics, Ron, lead the way on these.
Yeah, let me just say, David, when we first started to do these podcasts now 6 months ago or something, we originally structured this. You had a From the Gut and I had Ron's rant. And then we just determined that I rant about every topic. So I didn't need my own category. And today that will certainly be the case. And I'll try to contain my ranting. But the first topic is Trump taking steps to ban investors from buying single family homes. And I promise you I will rant about that. Without being
you already have today.
Yeah, but you gotta live with me all the time, dude. The buy button. This I'm really excited about this because I think it might give some insights about where the hockey puck is going, and maybe what you're not paying attention to. So I'm excited about that topic, David.
And then our final main topic.
Yep, this might be another mini rant, most likely. With Trump tells Fannie and Freddie to buy $200 billion in mortgage debt. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, and that's our last of our main topics. So without any further ado, let's talk about some Gen Z marketing in my From the Gut. All right, I'll start off with a question. How often, or do you ever scroll past a video or watch a video on social media and have the reaction, what the hell did I just watch? I had that a few weeks ago when I talked about the AI generation from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and it went from a photo of him to something unrecognizable. Well, I watched a video about 2 weeks ago that McKenna showed me, and I had a bit of a same reaction. It was the first time seeing him. His name's Trent Miller. He's this young, high energy real estate agent who's absolutely blown up on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, you name it. He's got millions of followers. He's got 1.3, I think, on TikTok. I think that's his leading platform, but he's got a healthy following on all of the others. He's in his early 20s. He's fast talking. He bounces through a house like he just drank 3 Red Bulls. It's chaotic, it's hilarious, but it's working for him. His house tours are less like HGTV or your local realtor standing in front of a home, and they're more like MTV Cribs meets Gen Z meme culture. I've got a short video. I think it's only about 1 minute long. McKenna, let's take a look at that.
This is what $10,000 is going to get you in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It's a speed tour, so let's take a look. First, we see the nice red door right there. There's the Diddy basement, so we're not going. Nice view outside. This is the living room, and over here, nice view of countertops as well as appliances in the kitchen. Right here, for my belt busters, right there's your pantry. Out we go. This is the garage! Show them that garage again. In here we go. This is a half bath. Out of the half bath, right here we see a nice closet. Right here's the home office, and upstairs we go.
Ron, are you confused?
Big door. Upstairs, we're met with the master bedroom. Right here's where you and your wife reproduce. Show them that closet. Into the bathroom we go. This is a toilet. There's the stand-up shower, double sink vanity, and out we go. After you and your wife are done reproducing, you need a bedroom. Right here's a closet, and out we go. Guys, right here's a banister. If you're having a tough day, there's a perfect spot to jump. Out we go. We see a laundry room. I wish I could wash my clothes. Second bedroom, another closet. Out we go. Another closet. In here, this is the toilet. There's the vanity. Most bathrooms have that. Out we go. Another bedroom. There's a closet. If you want to buy this house, you DM me.
Ron, you look confused watching that whole thing.
That was great. I am confused, but it was still good. It was very entertaining.
Right. So he's typically trying to sell the homes that he shows in his videos, but he got invited to do one of his speed tours at Jake Paul's house. Most of you probably know who Jake Paul is. He's the guy that fought Mike Tyson. He just fought Anthony Joshua a couple weeks ago. Huge mega YouTube influencer, but he did one of those speed tours at Jake Paul's house. And even last week, he did one at Mr. Beast's season 2 film set that just started on Prime Video. But here's the thing. Trent, yeah, that's his name. His style is not for everyone. In fact, I think a lot of the loan officers or real estate agents that I know, especially the ones in their 40s, 50s, 60s, they would never in a million years make videos like his. It's not you, and that's okay. But I don't bring him up to suggest that you become him. I bring him up because you should be paying attention. My point is that Trent didn't blow up because he copied what other agents were doing. He did the opposite. He brought his own quirky voice, his tone, and his style into the content, and people noticed. Like I said, 1.3 million on TikTok. Who knows how many on the others? And that's the bigger lesson here. Not really what he's doing, but why it's resonating. And here's where I want to challenge you. You don't have to act like Trent. You don't have to dance. You don't have to do the silly TikTok dances. You don't have to shout like he does. But if you're trying to reach a younger audience, and many of you are and should be, then you have to start thinking like them. You have to start creating content for the person you want to connect with, not just for your own comfort zone or own preference. A lot of people in this business are still, a lot of people in this business are still treating social media like a digital brochure. A couple polished posts, a smiling headshot, a quote graphic with a caption from 3 months ago. That's just not going to cut it anymore. Not when people you want to reach, not when the people that you want to reach are getting content that's fast, it's personal, it's funny, it's real, and it's tailored to them. And again, I'm not telling you to go full TikTok. Use a platform that works best for you, your audience. But I am telling you this. You have to be willing to push yourself. You have to be willing to try things that feel a little uncomfortable. Not stupid trends, not gimmicks, not forced young people slang, but things that are new to you, things that stretch your voice a bit, things that show more of your face and your thoughts and your story, things that help you connect in your own way, because if you don't evolve, someone else will. And when they do, they'll earn the attention and trust and eventually the business. That's what Trent did. He earned the audience by being himself, as quirky as he is, loud, unapologetic, and consistent. And that's something anyone can learn from. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 55. What matters is whether you're not willing to stop hiding behind what's always worked and start showing up in a way that actually connects today. And let me say this as clearly as I can. Your brand shouldn't be a watered down version of someone else's. It shouldn't be a copy paste of what's trending, and it shouldn't be a knockoff of your favorite influencer or a carbon copy of another top producer that you follow. It should be you. It should be your tone, your voice, your take on the world. Be inspired by others and learn from others, and then make it your own. But if you're going to build a brand that lasts, it has to be real. It has to be yours, and people can tell the difference between the two. So here's the invitation: watch the trends of the world, study the energy, the creativity, the connection, then take those lessons, not the style, and ask yourself, how can you push yourself just a little bit more? How can you be a little bit more real? How can you stop playing small and actually show up? Because the truth is, the people who win this next chapter of business aren't just the ones with the best rates or the biggest teams or the fastest process. They're the ones who show up with something real and make people feel like they can trust them. And if that's what you're building, you'll never have to copy anyone again. There you go, Ron.
David, that was awesome, man. You're from the guts are so great. You know, and I'm listening to it. I'm just loving it. You know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have been highly critical of that guy. Today, I'm envious of him. You know, I wish, you know, I had the courage to behave that way. That's really what it is. It's the courage about letting your inner person out, not being fake, but let the beast loose. You know, we all have it in us. You know, yours is different than mine, David, and how you get funky is different than how I do. But bring it out and see who it resonates with. Because this dude's incredible. You were saying I looked up his numbers while you're talking. He has 1.6 million followers on TikTok, and he has 42 million likes on his TikTok
Mm.
account. He has 382,000 followers on Instagram, and his which have reached over 440,000 people. And then on Facebook, he has 3 million views on his videos. Like, those are crazy numbers, and that's just him letting his beast out. You know, and I don't care if you're you know, if you're a house mom in Iowa and your beast is Cabernet, Sauvignon Cabernet, let the beast out. You're gonna find your people and serve them. Like, whatever it is, like, find the beast. You know, let it out. So, Dave, that was awesome.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I was like, "What is this?" I'm not a big fan of the trending TikTok dances and that kind of thing, but this was not that, you know. And the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, McKenna's sending me another TikTok video again." But then I watched a couple more of them, and I really started to find them funny. I mean, how different is that from your typical real estate agent home walkthrough and tour? You know?
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. Plenty of energy. Just fantastic.
Yeah, and he's in his early 20s. He's only been a real estate agent for 1 year. He Ron looked it up earlier. He closed 15 homes, sold 15 homes last year. So he's probably making more money on social media if he's monetizing it right, which he should be, than he is in real estate. But that's his thing. So there you go. If you're just tuning in, rewind it back a little bit and watch who we were talking about. Anyway, let's move on to our meatier topics, and in my opinion, a little more boring. I'll try to stay tuned in. I'm just kidding, Ron. I pick the goofy topics, and you pick all the data heavy topics that confuse me.
By the way, it's exactly the opposite. Like, when we do the run a show, I'm on like all the weird stuff, you know, and you're like, no, we just stick to the industry. I'm like, that's boring. Come on, let's talk about the funk. You're like, no, we just stick to the industry.
You're not wrong.
All right, let's move on then. Dave, we could just do like four from the guts. I just be watching the whole time. All right, let's
Yeah.
start the rants. Let's start the rants rolling. Trump taking steps to ban investors from buying single family homes. All right. So we all love a boogeyman here, right, David? The idea is, gosh, these giant corporations are buying all the houses. They're overpaying. They're outbidding hardworking blue collar Americans, and they're driving up the price of homes. They've just crushed the affordability, and they're the ones that are the problem behind supply. Like, we have a shortage of supply because Blackstone owns 30,000 homes, right? Is that the narrative? And so our current administration is playing into that narrative, trying to be a populist, saying, you middle class, I'm going to save you. I'm going to slay the dragon, right? But David, I have so many problems with this, and it's so false. And I'm not trying to be political, but I am standing up for the investors in the country. And here's the thing. First, if you define investors as, companies that own 1,000 units, hell, if you define them as companies that own over 100 units, they own less than 1% of the housing stock in the United States. Like, nothing. It's nothing. And then, but what's important is not, how much they own, but how do they acquire it? That's what people forget. How do they acquire it? Well, they acquired it a couple ways. First, in the great financial crisis, when there was just a ocean of foreclosures and short sales, right? I mean, property values across the country had dropped 25%. There was no floor. There was no buyers, and we were in a free fall. Who stepped into that? Who stepped into the abyss? These large institutional buyers with tons of financing stepped in with their own money, and by the way, and established a floor, because there was no floor on what the values were, and they started buying lots of property at 10,000 units apiece. But without them, who knows how far home prices would have fallen? Who knows? Like, they might have fallen 50%. Like, they were the stopgap. And at the time when they did this, we in generally society thought they were the savior. But now 20 years later, they're the devil because they own these properties that they stepped into the abyss to try to save us with, which I have a really hard time with that, David. And you want to keep on the rant, or you want to give feedback? Because I'll keep rolling.
So you are way more studious than I am when it comes to this kind of thing, and I would probably put myself as a little bit of a more of a headline reader than, and so I'm. What would it do if 1%? What is 1% of all of our housing? How many houses is that? I don't. How many houses are on the market or not on the market?
1% is only like, so what do we have? About 135 million houses on the market. So 1%, yeah, I guess we're talking institutional, it's about 1 million houses, something like that. I could be off, and I apologize if I'm off.
Yeah, I mean, 1% is 1%, but I think when I saw the headline, was it last week or was it just this week? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Um, I kind of cheered because I think I got sucked into all the headlines of how big of an issue this is for our country with large investment firms buying up all the inventory. So, how many people do you think would fall under my camp and be cheering for it versus people that actually have way more insight than me, like you?
Well, it's definitely a populist movement. I think, it resonates. Well, obviously, I don't blame it with middle class. We have a affordability. We have a supply problem. We have a supply problem. And by the way, there's no proposal to disgorge these investors from their properties. It's saying limit them in the future, right? Which they're not really buying property the way we're talking about, which we're going to talk about in a second, David. I mean, it's just so silly. But here's the second thing. Let's just say when an institutional investor buys a resale property, what kind of property do you think that is, David? You think it's a $5 million property on the beach?
No.
No. Where do you think it is?
It,
It's in some low income, low economic neighborhood where the house is dilapidated. As a matter of fact, as we were talking about this. There's six and a
mm,
half million homes in the United States that are substandard or unlivable, right? 6.5 million homes. So these institutional investors have been fantastic in buying these substandard homes completely remodeling them. So they're now giving them a new, lease on life. These homes that should be knocked down, instead they're spending 30, 40, 50. I think I forgot which company spends on average $50,000 to bring this home modern. And now they've taken inventory that was useless to everybody and they presented a livable home for somebody. Like, I can't demonize them for that. I mean, personally, I can't do that. And if they weren't available, what do we just knock down these 6.5 million homes? We're already probably 4 million homes short of affordable homes. And we're saying, no, institutional investors, I know you're saving 6.5 million entry level homes, but you're the devil. You are the devil. We can't allow this. Let's tear those homes down. Like, I don't
My
understand that. Like, maybe
my,
sometimes
my
that's just,
assumption, yeah, sorry, Ron. My assumption was that they were just your average priced homes in everyday neighborhoods. Does the data show that that's a fact, that it's
there's not
dilapidated
enough
homes?
margin on them just buying a $400,000 home, in a neighborhood and selling it for 405,000. That doesn't work. They got to buy a distressed property, remodel it, so there's some margin on the remodel, right? And they can do it highly efficiently, and it creates more margin for them to sell it or lease it, right?
Right, because I thought the majority of them, they were buying them not to resell it, not to flip it, but to turn into rental property.
Doesn't matter. They're taking property that isn't livable and they're converting it, right? I mean, they're taking condemned houses and bringing them modern. I can't not all of them, but all of them are in somewhat distress, right? I don't know why we demonize that. Now let me say something else, David. Here's the other premise. Like, we think that there is a total bias in America. Like, renters are like subclass, right? That's why we do the home interest deduction, because we want to promote home ownership, which I of course support. I'm in mortgage, I'm in real estate, right? But we do it at the penalty of renters. But are you telling me that somebody that can't quite buy a house yet, can't quite afford it, but that they want to rent a nice single family residence, they want to rent a house next to me? We say, no, no, that's not allowed. You can either buy it or you can't live in the neighborhood, right? Because what these institutional buyers do, they rehab the house and then they essentially rent it for cheaper than you can buy it. And they're allowing people that couldn't otherwise live in that neighborhood live in that house. And so once again, I have a hard time demonizing them about that. I really do.
Most of the industry experts that I've seen kind of fall on your side of the argument, but I
100%.
think that, like you said, it's a bit of a populist move, and kind of a headline grabber of doing this. But I was shocked to hear your perspective on it, because I've been hearing the other side just for years and years. I was surprised.
It's 100% vibes over reality, David. Let me just go one other last part of this rant, because I just don't understand. And I'm all, by the way, as you know, David, I'm super concerned about affordability. I 100% want to solve it. I want every American to own a home if they want to own a home, 1,000%. But I just don't want to make false steps or fake it to fix the problem, right? Here's the last thing. Today, in today's world, you know what, institutional buyers, you know how they actually acquire their houses today? It's
Mm-mm.
most of them now are from build to rent. So they buy huge blocks of communities from builders who otherwise couldn't sell it, right? Here's what happened,
Mm.
right? Like, let's, for example, about a year and a half ago, builders got in a huge bind. The cost of construction skyrocketed, the cost of financing skyrocketed, buyers stepped away from the marketplace. And you know who filled that gap? These institutional buyers that said, hey, Toll House, hey, Lennar, whoever happens to be, we'll buy the whole community from you. We're going to put it straight to rent, right? And so they created a floor of demand for the builder, which actually created the liquidity for them to keep building. Not just the communities that went build to rent, for all the communities. Because if you're a financier and you go, gosh, Dave, I want to finance that community of 3,000 houses, but what if the market turns and you don't have a market to sell it in? I'm not going to get stuck, so I'm not going to finance you. But you go, hey, my buddy Ron at ABC Real Estate Investors will buy 10% of my houses if I get in a bind. They'll do it build to rent. Is that gonna assuage your fear, Mr. Financer? And they go, oh, we're so glad to hear that. Then yes, let's move ahead. You remove that safety net from builders, they're going to be much more conservative on how they build. Even though doesn't seem like a lot, it is 100% a floor for their liquidity. So I just don't understand how this helps, other than It looks good. In our vibe society, it makes people feel good. Okay, we're killing the boogeyman, but it makes no sense to me. Anyway, thank you. That was my rant. I don't have official rant. I'm just like
No,
co-opting whatever I want.
I've actually lived in one of those neighborhoods. When I moved back east from California, there's the next town over for me. It's called Marvin. It's a very affluent town in this area, and most of the lots are at least an acre or more. And there was this one property where they were going to build houses, and I forget exactly how it happened. It ended up being an institutional buyer, and there were 25 homes built on this lot on this plot, and they were each an acre lot each, and they were all rentals. And I think something shady happened because that town, Marvin, would never have approved that had they all been rental homes, because I think that kind of historically drags down the property values. But something shady happened. But I've lived in one of those neighborhoods. It was kind of great, actually. I loved it.
Yeah. McKenna, you got any thoughts on this? Have I swayed you at all?
Uh,
I have a
not
feeling she's
really.
going to say no.
um, as I learned a lot. That's all
Uh,
I got.
I've I've got one thing wrong, and we'll move on because we're over time on this one. But we've gone from the 50-year mortgage to uh, blocking institutional investors, and now we're on a new one with using your retirement 401k to be able to put towards your house. What are your thoughts? Or would you lump all three of those into that same category?
no, no. I want to. And by the way, I love the idea of being able to use funds from your 401k to buy your house, because it's the strongest road to wealth in America. So I totally support that. I think that there's a lot of things presented on Truth Social, and some things are for effect, and some things are for impact, and you never know which it is. Sometimes it's just trial ballooning, and so now on the so we'll just have to see on the institutional investors. I mean, the president has some latitude on what he can do. And there's another thing, David. Like, I'm ranting and everything, but I'll tell you this: I appreciate that the current administration is trying to get solutions, and I'm appreciate they're trying to find new ways, and I appreciate they've gone. Whatever we've done the last 40 years hasn't worked. Let's try something different. Like, I appreciate all that. Like, I don't enjoy the politics of how it looks, how we're doing it for the vibe. But I appreciate that. I really do think that they are trying to fix it. And the president is planning this massive, massive housing speech at Davos here next week. You know, which is going to roll out a comprehensive plan for housing affordability in America. Now, honestly, I both fear that and I'm eager for it. So we'll have to see what comes out. But I'm sure there'll be some crazy stuff.
Yeah. What day is it?
I think the 23rd.
It's the 15th right now.
Yeah.
So that'd be later on in the week. All right, we are way behind. Let's move on to the buy button. What do you say?
I really like this topic, David, and I know that I created the topic, so I don't want to get too invested in it. But here's what this buy button came to, by the way. This is what's really interesting. It started with a Salesforce article that published last week, and it was a really fascinating article. And what the article said was that uh, that AI influenced about 20% of all holiday shopping this last season. Or differently, they're roughly responsible for $262 billion of revenue in the retail space during the holiday season. And they had a whole bunch of other data. And it said, look, gosh, AI powered searches doubled year over year. And that shoppers that, came to the product via an AI search or an AI bot converted at 9 times higher. And that retailers who offered the AI shopping agents saw their sales growth grow by 59%, and their results were like 3x to the marketplace. And then the other thing is that people that bought through either an AI search or an AI bot were less likely to return the product. They're much happier with the product. And then as I was thinking about this and I kept reading on, I was reading about how everybody's racing to own the buy button. Microsoft, Visa, MasterCard, Google, everybody wants to control the buy button. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a signal in there about all this. Like, what does it all mean? And here's the thing that not a today thing, but a tomorrow thing about where the puck is going is that they're not only trying to control the buy button, but they're trying to control the plumbing that gives you direct access without friction to the product. Meaning, like, we're going to totally bypass if you're buying a pair of jeans, the Gap or Nordstrom's or Target, wherever you buy your jeans, and you just tell us what you want, and we're going to get you the best deal, and we're going to deliver it to you. Now, the best deal may be our deal. Like, you're not going to know. I'm just delivering the best deal. And you go, well, Ron, gosh, that's a pair of jeans. Like, who would actually do something? Who would transact serious business that way? Well, I mean, more and more people, something like 50 million people a week consult with ChatGPT about their health, millions about their legal problems, their estate plans, their finances. Like your chat or whatever the tool is already dominating so many service sectors that we're not aware of. It's not all that far of a bridge to go, okay, when these giant tech companies own the buy button, what is that buy button? Hey, buy a house. And here's how it looks. And you go, Ron, this is kooky, but here's how it works. Like, David, let's say, tonight you have a few Prosecco's and you're wondering, I go, man, I wonder, whatever your tool is, Gemini, I don't care what Claude, whatever your tool is, go, do you think I could buy a house in New Orleans? And the tool will say, Claude, asks you a couple questions, right? And you're like, well, what are you thinking about? And why do you want to move? And now understand your AI tool knows you. Like, it's worked with you. Like, David, your AI tools you use a bunch of them. They probably worked with you for hundreds of hours. They know what you like, what you don't like. They're trying to please you. They totally know how you want information presented to you. And so here's what Claude does. They go, hey, David, there is a perfect house for you at 123 Canal Street in New Orleans. It fits everything I know about you, and it fits, and I know you can afford it. It's $500,000. Look, you're already approved for the loan. All you have to do is hit yes, and you're going to own this house. I'm going to give you a 3D, tour of it. I've taken care of all the details. This is super simple. Just click yes, buy now, and you own that house. That is not an unrealistic future. It really isn't, which is just fascinating. Then how do we fit in that future? So that's what this topic is about, David.
It just seems like that is such a huge hurdle to overcome with the current regulation with CFPB and everything.
Yeah,
You
CFPB
know,
that's been closed.
that's it. What?
That has virtually been closed. They have 12 employees or
Yeah.
something like that now.
Yeah. I
You know what,
thought I
David?
thought you said it has been closed. I was like, I didn't think I knew that they Trump ripped it to shreds, but yeah,
It's
I guess it could be easier than I thought when the CFPB looks now compared to what it did 2 years ago or 1 year
Yeah, but
ago.
it's not a thing today. I'm not saying that today it happens, but look how much we're finally automating the loan process, right?
Hmm.
And here's the thing, like, and I did a LinkedIn post on this last week, and here's the thing, like, if I'm referring a client that wants to buy a house, I have to create rapport, I have to create relationship, I have to create understanding, and I have to create trust, right? I'm pretty dang sure, David, that let's say you use ChatGPT, you already have all those things with ChatGPT. You already know, you believe Chat understands you. You have a communication, you have a trust, right? With that tool, and so that's an advantage. And then they can remove all sorts of friction through the process by just knowing you, right? And I'm not saying this is going to happen today or tomorrow, but now think about it. We have companies which I totally appreciate, lots of them like Rocket, that have completely automated the application process, right? And today we know three out of three, two out of three clients prefer to use the auto bot with Rocket than a human, right? So it's completely automated. They already enjoy that more. It's not that far a stretch that the buy buttons come into what we're doing.
I struggle with the idea of that, but then I also think about if you go back 30, 40 plus years, you think about, every previous generation and how much of a tough time they had mentally going from cash to check and then check to credit card. And now my mom's 78 and she's still leery of putting her credit card into a website to buy something, even though it might be a completely, a bestbuy.com or Amazon or whatever. She still has that hesitancy to use her credit card to buy stuff online, which doesn't mean it's free of all risk, but I think of those switches and mindsets with generation to generation, and I still have a tough time believing that's coming for buying a house with AI, but then I also put myself into that mindset. It might just be a generational thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, y- it is hard to fathom, but the world is radically changing, and tech has failed repeatedly at mortgage because mortgages are in real estate. They're complicated. They have a lot of nuance, but tech is solving that. That's the whole thing. And as they solve that and they remove friction, I'm telling you, Dave, you could be in your little terry cloth robe at 1 o'clock in the morning. Uh, working at your computer and go, I wonder if I could buy a house. And you literally you'll be able to get, here's the house you need, here's the payment, here's your budget, you're pre-approved, you're ready to go. Like just in a casual conversation at 1 in the morning for a couple minutes. Like how much easier is that than the process we have today?
How soon do you think it's going to happen?
The way I'm describing it,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to gradually happen every day, but how long till it fully is as I'm, you know, pr saying how it might happen, 5 to 8 years,
Yeah.
but every day we'll get closer to it, right?
Right. Right. All right, let's move on. Oh, this is a good one. Another
Another rant.
one that could turn political pretty easily, but we won't go there. But topic number three, Trump, 200 billion in bonds, or what is it? Yeah.
$200 billion in bonds. So, you know what, David, I'm actually not gonna get political on this, and I try not to get political on any of it, and I'm not even gonna call it stupid, because it's really not. Now, I will call it completely unprecedented, 100% unprecedented, and it may not 100% conform with the GSE's mission, but regardless of all that, I'm gonna put this in the bucket. Look, Donald Trump's trying to make houses more affordable. I totally appreciate that. And the populace is pissed off, all this pent up demand to buy a house and they can't afford it. They're pissed off. They want to see the commander in chief, solve the dang problems. And so this will have an impact. And what he's saying now, here, I'm about to be, I just stopped being political. I just stopped that. Stop. But so he's directed Fannie and Freddie to use their excess profits sitting in cash. Let's go ahead and buy $200 billion of mortgage debt, and let's see if we can't drive interest rates down. Now, a few things. The general consensus is that Fannie and Freddie buying about $200 billion in MBSs will drive interest rates down about a quarter point. Now, it'll be short lived, but it will probably affect the market about a quarter point. Now, there's some things that don't make sense. So the Fed is letting their MBSs run off at $15 billion a month. But now we're saying Fannie and Freddie buy it back. So we have like the gas and the brake on at the same time, which I maybe don't quite fully understand. And then the Fed, and here's what's really happened, David. This is really interesting. I don't know if a lot of people pay attention to this, but the Fed is piling all their bond and money into the very short term. Matter of fact, I don't think there's any comparable time in history where the Fed is funding our debt. It's like 65% of it through T-bills, which is super short term debt. Well, here's what happens when they flood out the supply, they're flooding out the short-term debt, right? And they're also the buyers. They're buying the debt at the same time. It suppresses the yield. It suppresses the rate. And so the government's kind of been putting their finger on the scales, going short-term interest rates go down. We want you to go down. Of course, because that makes our debt more affordable, like our national debt, right? But it's screwed. But at the same time, they haven't controlled the long end of the curve. So the long end of the curve, while the short end's going down, they're cutting interest rates. They're They're doing everything they can to drive, the quantitative easing. I think in the short end, the long end has been coming up, and that's what affects people buying homes. And so Trump's like, hold on, we got to affect the long end too. I don't have a lot of levers. Look, Fannie and Freddie, you got a couple $100 billion extra. Let's buy the market down. And what the market loves, any market likes an unconcerned buyer, a buyer who doesn't care what the price is. Like, I'm going to buy no matter what. The market loves that. Now, the housing market's a $7 trillion market. It's $200 billion doesn't mean a lot. We're going to originate $4.2 trillion this year. So $200 billion doesn't mean a lot, but it means a lot in the short term. And because it's going to soak up supply, it's going to create demand by eating up that supply, which is going to get us a little shorter rates for the short time. But here's the problem, David. Okay, so there you go. And one other thing, by the way, the GSEs, Fannie and Freddie, have a statutory limit. They can't invest greater than $450 billion into MBSs. This $200 billion is going to get them to their ceiling because, by the way, last quarter they bought $69 billion worth. So they're already doing this. It's not like we're not already seeing it. So it's just more, it's a little bit more of the same. But here's the thing. So, all right, Fannie and Freddie are going to buy $200 billion, and they've already bought $69 billion. They're going to hit their $450 billion statutory maximum, and we're going to have a short-term BIP. By the way, if you're a loan officer, ride the wave. Ride the wave down, lock, because I'm telling you, there's upward pressure on the long end of the curve. But take this gift for what it's worth and run. Now, that being said, David, what's the problem? What's the main challenge of affordability in America?
Inventory.
Supply, right? We don't have enough
Supply.
affordable houses. We do not have enough entry-level affordable houses. It's supply. All right. What does lowering interest rates do?
Decreases supply because more people buy.
Increase demand. It increases demand. Is the market problem demand? No, the market problem is supply. What does increased demand do without affecting supply?
Ooh.
Drives prices up. Drives prices up. So as homeowners, I love this. Put rates down, drive prices up. That's what I want.
Yeah.
If you're a first-time home buyer, are you going to get a cheaper house? Hell no, it's not going to help you. No, it's not. This is one of those vibe moves, not effective moves, right? You have to solve supply. That's the problem, not demand. The same thing with giving people subsidized rates or getting them down payment. You can't just artificially drive demand without solving supply. That's why it makes no sense. But it plays to the populace, right? It plays to the masses. It's a vibe.
That was such a good educational piece. My jaw is a little bit dropped. We're going to pull this segment and actually post this by itself. But I've got one loosely tied thought or comment, but I bet you McKenna has some thoughts around this.
Can't wait.
She's not. I was going to say she's going to.
Yeah, my thoughts.
That's all right. Go away. That was just for fun. You said you think this will have a 0.25% short-term effect, right?
Yeah, which will be great,
So
by the way,
I'm
for a
gonna
refinance. 25% of
yes.
people that have a home have a rate higher than 6. Good for you. You're going to get a little spike. Good. Right. Last week, we got down to the first time in 3 years down briefly down below 6. Now we're well above it. We're 6.19 today on the average rate, but good. And that's the thing about loan officers. You have to be ready to pound. Like, there's going to be these mini boom, like refi boomlets, like where the rates are going to dip and then they're going to go up and then they're going to dip. You have to be locked and loaded and already have a strike price for your clients. So when you get your price, lock and harvest.
So I'm going to go back to 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, when you and I were both working at Homeowners Financial Group. Wonderful organization, by the way, led by Bill Rogers. I remember when we were both there and rates were still in the high 6s, maybe low 7s. I had a lot of projects and plans and goals and so on, but a lot of them cost money. And so I basically got handcuffed, and I'd go back to Bill or you and like, can we do this? Can we do that? And I remember it was either you or Bill. I think it was Bill, but you might have been on the call. And I was like, when do you think we can I think it was we were talking about hiring someone. When do you
Yeah.
think I can do this? Because you've asked me to launch whatever campaign or do whatever. And I was like, we need someone, a skilled person on staff to do that. So when can we do that? And I remembered you or him saying, once rates have a five in front of it, that's when we can probably do it. So do you think that 5 point whatever interest rate is going to unleash that mental block with borrowers out there to where the market starts to get flooded?
Yes, I think there is a psychological, floor at at something with a five handle, and they also track in the money loans. Like every time interest rates go down an eighth, how many more people are in the money for a refinance? And by the way, as we get down below six, that number is in the millions every quarter of a point. So that's significantly more market share. The problem is, David, I just don't think this is going to be a long term effect. And
Mm,
I think, and I talk all the time, and I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm more like, let's be great mortgage advisors. Let's give good advice so people actually follow us and respect us. Like if we just say stupid things that never come true or totally go the opposite way, then I don't blame people for not trusting us and treating us poorly sometimes. But here's the thing, David, and here's one of my fears. Not only is there unprecedented global sovereign debt, which we have never faced before, which is a whole supply problem, which is part of the upward pressure on rates. And there's, I think, a lot of latent inflation, in the economy now that's going to express itself, which will put upward pressure on rates. But let's pretend you don't agree with either one of those things. And I'm no economist, I'm no analyst, so you don't have to listen to me. But the one thing that concerns me is that these tech companies are planning to bring somewhere between 1.6 and 2.3 trillion dollars of investment grade bonds to the market this year.
mm.
That is a lot of supply. And you may feel more confident buying, bonds from Meta or Apple or Google than you do buying mortgage-backed securities. And they're going to compete, and that massive new supply, which we haven't had a wave of that much supply from the third party before, we don't know how that's going to roil the markets. And so that concerns me. That's why I say, look, ride the wave when you can, be conservative in your advice, and then just help people buy homes.
All right, we are way over. McKenna's flashing the lights at us to tell us to move on. Um, but this is a first of our rapid fire topics. But this I forget exactly that this sounds very familiar or similar to the topic we were just talking about with affordability and supply. But we changed the title of it. Ah, that's right.
Yeah, David, we'll try to be really quick about this. And what we're really highlighting is Apollo Academy, Dr. Torsten Slok's housing outlook. I think he comes out twice a year. It's about 125 pages of the most beautiful data. He gives you, and he totally shares it. It's completely high res. It is so good. If you're a mortgage or a real estate professional, check out the Apollo Academy housing outlook. It's unbelievable. So, David, there's no way you and I can cover 125 charts. They're all golden. Some of them are things we see all the time, and some of them are things you don't see. And so we just picked up, we really picked one topic and just a handful, three or four charts that we thought were most interesting. And the one that struck me as most interesting, and McKenna, you can go to the next slide, is this. We've all seen this slide right here. We've all seen it now. If you've seen it with Barry Habib, it's color coded by generation. But the gist is, our belief was that when people turn 33, that's typically the launch point to where they create a new household. And so you can see that there, and you can't quite see it from this chart, but what it means is in 2022, we had a record number of people turning 33. And the prevailing belief was all these 33-year-olds, just from a historic standpoint, are going to launch, which is going to create an unbelievable wave of purchase business for us. And Barry was a leader in talking about this as one of his big topics. And Barry's great, so I'm not criticizing him, but because he's using historical data, he's like 33. We're going to have we're talking millions of people are going to be millions of household formations. We're going to have more household formations, since the great baby boom, right back from the World War II. And what happened? Let's go to the next slide. Exactly the opposite. Exactly the
Explain
opposite.
the layout of this slide.
Yeah, so just this is new housing formations, and all you need to do is compare the years. You can see that since 2020, housing
Oh,
formations, now, of course, during the pandemic in 2021, that makes sense, but have just been in a roller coaster, just a straight slide down, right? And we're getting down to some historic lows of new housing formation. So, how is it that we're having historic low housing household formation when we have this wave of 33-year-olds coming down the pike? And what happened is this: we just we got it wrong. We assumed because it always has been like, okay, this is a black swan. We who can forecast a black swan? Well, there's a black swan every other day, right? What happened? There's a bunch of things here, and some of them are societal and some of them aren't. One, people are getting married later. People are choosing to have kids or not even getting married at all. People are having kids later. People are having fewer kids. All these affect housing formation. Housing formation is delayed today. Now, NAR puts out a totally bogus number that the average first-time home buyer is 40. That's completely bogus. I'm not going to rant about that. We already did. Let's say the average first-time home buyer, if you follow MBA, that actually uses real data, is around 36 years old, but it's still delayed. Even if it's delayed 3 years, right? It's delayed. And so we are looking for signals that were completely false, and housing formation has been delayed, right? The other thing is housing formation is impacted by the vibe, how we feel about the economy, the security of our jobs, affordability. And as that wanes and improves, it flows. Well, affordability is a really difficult thing right now. And so people are, kids are saying, I'm going to live with my parents. I'm going to graduate from college. I'm going to move back home. I'm going to stay a few extra years with my parents, right? And so housing formation has been really slow. Now, so is that always going to be the case? Who knows? It seems like kids are getting married, delaying getting married and delaying having kids. So I think housing formation is going to be slower than we think. But we also are starting to get that pent up demand. That's why Dr. Salk says, hey, this is a tailwind because why that 33-year, that wave didn't happen, but the pressure is building. There's a wind behind us. Those people, it's pent up demand that's going to come to the market. We don't know when, but it's going to come to the market, right? And I believe in that. So it's just kind of an interesting data point, David, which is why we're sharing it.
so I haven't seen Barry on stage or a full length video from him in a while. How much is he attributing COVID to his forecast not actually coming true?
Well, he was really selling this in 2021. I saw Barry on
Oh, okay.
stage. I saw Barry on stage. I think it was the first time he came back on like a big stage in Las Vegas a few months ago, and he was fantastic. By the way, he was the best I've ever seen him. And I'm a Barry lover. I'm not a critic. I'm just using him because he was so vocal about this, and he had all these beautiful color charts, and but that's his job, is to try to help lead people to understand the signals and everything. And so I don't know if he's commented on this, honestly, because it's in the past now. It's like nobody's holding him accountable to what he said 4 years ago. And now he's on to focusing on other things. Of course, he's doing
His
fantastic,
health.
and I wish him well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's your new nickname from now on, and you just coined the term yourself, Ron. So don't yell at me, but Ron the Barry lover. So
I'm a Barry lover.
that's what you said. I'm a Barry lover. So you're now Ron the
Okay.
Barry lover.
I learned my way on my way. Listen to Barry every day. Get in my little mortgage market guy email every morning. I read it religiously. I mean, it's a lot of my script, man. I totally appreciate that, dude. All right,
All
let's
right,
keep
rapid
going.
fire number 2. How much equity did Americans just lose in their house?
Yeah. So look, this is just a different way to look at things. And, I'm gonna try not to really offend anybody. And we gleaned this from a National Association of Home Builders, and they had a article about household real estate asset values fall in the third quarter. And the gist is, asset values, we peaked at, the equity, the free equity in homes topped about $37 trillion. And that was a high watermark. Think of that, $37 trillion homeowners had in equity in their homes. But over the last quarter and a half, that's gone down to $33 trillion. Just home prices have softened. And so we've lost about $4 trillion in home equity. And my thought here is, and it's been my recurring thought, and I know, David, we kicked this around earlier, but we're all rooting for affordability. Like we all like, let's fix the affordability. Like, let's fix this. Well, if fixing that means that you're a homeowner and you have to give up 20% of your equity, if it means that, are you still voting? Let's fix this. Like, let's fix this, everybody. Let's make this more affordable. Please, please depress the value of my home. I know it's worth 500 a day, but I want to help my community. Let's drive it down to 400,000. Let's do that, everybody. And like, it's almost like that's what we're absent-mindedly rooting for. Like, we're rooting for the wrong thing. Like, that's not the way to solve affordability. It's not at all. And David, as we talked about it before, what's the way to solve affordability?
Supply.
Supply of more affordable houses, right? If you built $4,300,000 houses or $250,000 houses, do you think that's going to affect the price of $1 million house? No. Is it going to solve the affordability problem? Is it going to let people get on the bottom rung of home ownership and start earning the equity for themselves? Absolutely. That's the thing. Let's not root for prices to come down. That's the dumbest thing. Let's root for wages to go up, and let's root for affordable supply to come to the market. And so it's no more complicated than that. You know what I mean? And David, I keep ranting, but I know we're running along. So what do you think about that?
How can the government really force that? I think I asked you that question in a roundabout way earlier, but how can the government force that?
How's the government complicit in helping driving down prices? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we can.
Driving down the cost of homes.
Yeah, so it definitely is market. Prices are market driven, but there's a lot of ingredients that go into market, right? It's like credit availability, interest rates. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it. Supply, all those things go into it, right? And
Cost of materials.
Well, that if you're creating new supply, right? How do you create affordable houses? Well, remove the barriers to building a damn house. It shouldn't take 8 months. You shouldn't have to spend $250,000 on entitlements, on permits, on regulatory obligations. Plus, you shouldn't be paying twice as much for lumber because there's a stupid tariff on it from Canada. Nor should you kick out all the people that build the freaking houses to begin with, so you have nobody to build them. So then you're paying premium wages to people who don't even want to work it. Like, don't get me on a rant on how we create affordable housing, but you know what I mean? But what we don't want to root for, hey, everybody, let's lose the value of your home. No, how about stupid government? How about helping us build affordable houses? How about getting out of the damn way? Builders aren't evil. I guarantee you, people like Lennar, they would build up $5,200,000 homes if they can make a damn profit. They'd happily do it for 15% profit, right? But the government, and now it's super complicated, and I'm going to be generous here, well-meaning. I'm being super generous because I don't feel that way, but well-meaning, right? But you're chasing the wrong boogeyman. We're rooting for the wrong outcome. Anyway, there you go.
You sound like you're not a fan of tariffs. Trump recently pitched the idea of no income tax because of the amount of money that's coming in from tariffs. Is that real? Is that ever going to happen? I think not.
I mean, tariffs, the income from tariff, which has been surprising and helpful, is it's such a small fraction of what income taxes provide. It's not even possible. I mean, you could get rid of income taxes if you had tariffs and a VAT tax. But Dave, when you say, are you against tariffs? Like, yes, I'm against tariffs against things like bananas, which by and large, we can't grow in the United States. So how are we protecting U.S. interests if you just tax the shit out of bananas? Or if you tax, Arabica beans that can only be grown a few places in the world, how is that protecting U.S. jobs? Like, somebody's going to have to explain it to me, because I may not understand. And I'm not, by the way, I don't want to be political, because I'm not a hater of this administration. It's not that, but somebody's going to have to explain it to me, right? And so, okay, we're getting cheap lumber apparently from Canada. Whose lumber are we not buying then? Like, what lumber? What American lumber mill are we screwing by getting 2x4s from Canada? I'm just not so certain that happens, right?
All right.
What's that? Away from this. I said, we're trying to go away. Right?
We've got two more rapid fire topics. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I'm good.
We've got two more rapid fire topics. One, we're talking about credit card interest rates, and our last one, we're talking about beer. So if you're hearing this, hold on for another 4.5, 5 minutes, and we're going to start talking about beer. But before we get there, let's talk about credit card interest rates.
You know what, David, we try not to be political at all because we don't. We're not because, and like we're not like we're not ideologues, and all we want is we believe in the American dream and that home ownership is the path to wealth for most Americans, and so we support things that support that. And so we hear this latest thing. Okay, America's average credit card rate, by the way, is 21%, and in a populist way, the current administration has rolled out, a very socialist liberal strategy of limiting, interest, credit card interest rates. And it sounds good because you go, gosh, those mean old ugly banks, man, I can't believe they're charging me 32% interest. That's usury. It shouldn't even be legal. Like we should let's close those companies down. So our current president, goes, okay, we're going to cap interest for a short time at 10%. David, is that a good idea? I know we talked about this earlier, but is that a good
When I
idea?
first heard it, I was like, that's an amazing idea. Go for it. But then
Yeah.
you educated me a little bit on it. So explain.
So, McKenna, let's go to the second chart. Let's just first look at
Should we get McKenna's take on that, by the way,
McKenna. You
before
want to go
you
first? You go
explain it?
last. What do you think?
Uh, a lot of the topics that you guys are talking about are going right over my
Well,
head.
let us simplify it for you. Credit card interest rate, 20% is a lot,
Mhm.
And
Average is 21. There's people paying 35.
yeah,
I mean,
right, right. I mean, that can put you in a place where you never get out of debt, right? You're young, and a lot of young people have a lot of interest, a lot of credit card debt. You don't, but you're of that generation. And Trump recently announced that he was going to put a cap on interest rates for credit card companies at 10% compared
Mhm.
to 20 to 30%. What's your initial reaction to that?
My initial reaction is that sounds good. You know, control the interest rates, not screwing people over. But I have a feeling that wrong is about to prove me wrong.
so
Yeah.
that
All right.
your viewpoint, which is legitimate and probably common, presupposes that the banks are evil trying to screw their customers, right? Like they came up with the interest rate. 35% should be good. And that's how banks operate, right? And then your second assumption is government knows better. Government can probably contain the evil that's out there in the free market and knows better, and they can protect us. And so they can pick an artificial rate. Those, I think. I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what people are thinking, essentially, right? I mean, is that fair? I'm not trying to. I mean, that's
I
the
mean, I don't
boogeyman, right?
I don't trust banks or the government, but yes.
Yeah. 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 To your point, nobody's making you use a credit card, to your point.
Yeah.
But let's go back to that chart. So, other than the average interest rate paid on credit cards, 21%, some people pay as high as 37%. This is the distribution by quality of borrower. So, the best qualified credit card borrowers in the country average about a 10% rate. So, the very best, like I got, I'm Bill Gates. I got, $300 billion. I got a $500 Macy card. They're charging me 10%. Seems kind of silly. And then as the credit profile weakens, the interest rate goes up. Kind of makes sense, right? And so essentially, how banks price interest rates on credit card is they have to pay for the risk. So let's say somebody who's a deep subprime, I'm just making these numbers up, but let's just pretend the deep subprime borrowers have a default rate of about 30%. Let's just say it's 30%. It's probably somewhere in there, right? So the first thing when they deal with these subprime borrowers is I have to cover my loss, my risk. That's 30%. Now, on top of the covering my risk, which is really just the whole pool of those subprime people I'm giving credit cards to, I want a return on my investment too. I want 5%. So, deep subprime borrower, your interest rate is 35%. 30% covers my loss risk because you guys lose me money. And if you want a credit card, you have to, that's like the insurance fund for that pool. You have to pay off my risk and then I get a return. That's essentially how they're established, right? So you go, so you're like, Trump, oh, you know what? Man, people are pissed off. Everything's so expensive. They feel like they're getting ripped off. They feel like companies are getting ripping them off. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ride in on my horse. I'm going to go, look, evil banks, the citizenry hate you. You're charging these usury rates. So I'm going to say you can't charge more than 10%. What do you think the banks do? Let's just pretend that happens. What do you think the banks do? The banks go, well, Mr. President, on these 4 categories here on this chart to the left, that means I'll be losing anywhere between 15 and 20% on every credit card I issue to those people. That doesn't seem like a good business strategy. So, you know what I probably need to do to defend myself is rescind those cards. I'm going to rescind them because I'm not going to freaking lose 15% on giving some person who can't afford a credit card, right? I'm not going to do it, right? Stop. Great. All right, Mr. President, thank you. Let's get rid of 2/3 of the credit cards in the United States. That's wonderful. Now, who does that affect? Who does that affect in my mind? Because David, we've been there. Like, you can't make ends meet. You can barely make your paycheck go. You don't know how you're going to pay groceries. And so you got this stupid usury credit card because you have bad credit because you can't pay everything, right? And so you're paying 35%, but that lets you buy groceries until you get your paycheck, right? Well, what happens if I lose that credit card? What's my solution then if I'm a homeowner? Like, if I'm in that situation, and God bless people in those situations, like I said, you and I have been in that situation. What happens to those people, right? All right, so now what am I going to do? I got to feed my family. Okay, I can go to a check cashing place where the interest rate's 1,300%. I can go to a loan shark. I can even do something more egregious, right? Like my choices aren't great, but thank you, Mr. Trump. I'm not going to have to pay 35%. And I'm not bashing Mr. Trump. It's not at all. It's not critical to him. I'm this whole concept, right, which is an Elizabeth Warren concept that she's been selling for 2 decades. I don't understand it, but maybe you guys can explain it to me. And this is my last rant today, by the way, because we're out of time.
I need some background music that I'm gonna put on my pad here for when I feel like you're getting into a rant that I just start playing it. Maybe it's a Darth Vader theme.
But do you agree? I mean, do you understand? I mean, does that make sense?
It does, and I had a totally different perspective this morning waking up, and around 11 o'clock this morning when we had a conversation around it, my perspective completely changed. However, what is that sliding scale? In I don't want to get into a capitalist discussion, socialism discussion. How much should these banks be making versus not? That's a tricky conversation. But
Or should you say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Super Subprime, you really shouldn't have a credit card, so you're no
yeah,
longer eligible. Like, I mean, like that's the truth, right? I mean, hey, you haven't been able to responsibly handle credit, probably because your situation is unfair. Like, I'm not judging. Like, you're
sure.
desperate, right? But that isn't the bank's responsibility, right? So maybe the government legislates, hey, look, some people just shouldn't have a credit card. That's what
Yeah,
underpins the 10%.
yeah. We're about to start talking about beer, but McKenna, do you have any? I know your job isn't just to just listen to us; it's to control production. But do you have any kind of different perspective or thoughts on it now?
I've mostly been
No.
focused on pushing buttons, unfortunately.
That's all right. That's all
If
right.
you give me
Your
a
job isn't just
leading
your
if you
job
give
isn't
me
to
a
just sit there and listen.
if you give me a leading question, I can answer that, but unfortunately with all of what I'm doing, I don't have an answer.
That's all right.
David, this has been the most opinionated we've been. And we'll have to be interested to see how that plays.
I think it is. I think it is.
Wow,
I think I'm
wow,
gonna
wow.
pull. So I usually pull either McKenna or I usually pull several 30, 60-second shorts from our 70 to 80 minute long conversation. But I think this one I'm gonna pull several 5, 6, 7 minute long versions. No, I think they're good, especially the one I forget. Let's talk about beer. McKenna, let's bring up the
Here.
beer slide. Beer. All right, Ron, are we going to be able to tie this into housing or mortgage or real estate at all? Or is this just
Yeah,
simply about beer?
yeah. If you work in housing, real estate, mortgage, you should drink beer. How's that? You deserve it.
All right, countries that drink the most beer. Let's pull up the first slide.
That was simple.
Um, you shared this with me, and I was like, of course China drinks the most beer because they have the most people on the planet. So we've got a couple more slides after this one that talks about it by population, or
Yeah, I
what's
didn't
the
really love this chart either, David. It was really kind of useless, but I love talking about beer, so I suggested the topic. But I know you gave us some further data, which is much more relevant than this.
yeah. So first of all, is there anything on here that surprises you?
Yeah, I can't believe that the sovereign country of Ron isn't listed somewhere. like my own beer kingdom isn't listed somewhere on that.
What's the one in the bottom, like middle to the left of Germany? ROU?
Yeah. Is that I'm no, come on, David, you're gonna make us look dumb.
All right, never mind. All right, so here you can see
It
the
is
amount of
Romania.
beer.
Romania?
Ah,
See, I was gonna guess
Romania.
that. I was gonna guess
why is
that,
there
but
a
because
U in that?
I don't know.
Anyway,
David, let's stick
um,
to what we do. Beer. Let's
yeah.
not do
So here you
abbreviations.
can see the amount of beer that is drank, consumed by each country, but that doesn't tell you a lot because China is huge. Let's move. Oh, that was a gross sound that I just made with my mouth. Sorry. Let's move to let's move to the next slide. So this tells
Yeah.
you by let's zoom in on
This is per capita, a much better read. So the Yugoslavic countries, the Slavic countries drink the most beer, generally speaking, with Australia and Ireland doing their fair share, right? But Chechnya, Lithuania,
No, that's Austria, not Australia, I
Austria, yeah,
think.
good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, the
Austria.
Swede, yeah. Croatia, Estonia, all good beer drinkers. Slovenia, Romania, Germany, all, and then finally we get to the South American countries, closer to me. And the U.S. per capita is really not high on this list, right, David? I think you told me it's 23.
So there's 35 total. I didn't count it exactly. I guess that it was maybe 27 or something like that. But I was surprised that the US was as low as it is.
Contrary to my best efforts.
Yeah.
If Belinda just would have given me the kegerator for Christmas I asked for, I could lift this up at least 4 spots.
Wait, say that again?
I said if Belinda would have given me the kegerator I asked for Christmas, I could have single-handedly lifted the U.S. up 4 spots.
Belinda, if you're watching, shame on you. You should have gotten Ron that kegerator.
For the people. Come on. You should have helped us.
For the people.
For our self-respect and our identity, sweetie.
McKenna, let's move to the next slide.
By the way, she's listening.
Yeah.
I'll probably have one here on Monday.
It's already ordered. I guarantee
People
it.
say I'm so hard to shop for. Really? Big square box, cold, that you put a giant, 16-gallon beer thing into? That seems hard.
Beer, food, kitchen. That's your love language, Ron. All right, let's zoom in on this one. So alcohol spending per capita per state. All right, any surprises here?
It doesn't surprise me
The
that you can't
highest-
see here that Alaska is the highest.
Highest is Alaska.
But that's also part of
So
that. Just it costs more in Alaska because you got to drive it a long way across the tundra.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's the only way to base your judgment on is how much is spent. So yeah.
Yeah.
So let's compare where I live versus where you live. So I am 839, and we might need to. Well, yeah, we'll do Arizona. 882.
Yeah, but I'm moving to Utah.
No, you're not.
Although they have apparently 606, but they have some tough blue ones there.
You're moving that because of this chart.
I was
So
gonna
what's the
move up.
least?
The least is Utah. So I'm talking. Come on.
6. Wow, by quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. All right. Utah. Is that I'm surprised West Virginia is so low.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, everything's cheap in West Virginia, rightfully so. They should give you free
All right,
beer
Ron.
if you actually go to the state. All right,
That's because they
want to
Do you,
wrap this
bootleg
thing
all of
up?
their own liquor.
That's a good point too.
yeah.
You've been watching Moonshiners on what Nat that's because it's off the books. You guys are
Ron, do
from
you
the
have
book.
any kind of tie-in to mortgage or real estate with this last topic?
I told you already. I mean, this you should really pay attention because this
Okay,
is
but
the
a
great
real
equalizer.
tie-in.
That's a tie-in enough, David. That's called reality. Like, let's get real.
I'll take it. All right. So let's wrap this up. If you've joined us, we appreciate it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting ready to launch a new product in the coming weeks, hopefully. And Ron and I are pretty excited about it. You'll hear about it on YouTube channel. But if you've watched this, if you're tuned in right now, make sure you go to our Little Nessie YouTube channel, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. But Ron, with that, cheers to you, fine sir. It's Thursday.
Cheers.
You ready for the weekend?
Yeah, because I'll be in Paris on Saturday.
Ron's going to be in Paris. Take care. Ron, I will talk to you tomorrow. And the rest of you, I'm not sure if we'll talk to you next week because Ron's traveling, but hey, whenever it is, we will. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.